The same live streams on Instagram. So
Oh,
part
yeah.
of it for the meeting.
Reading 94.7 FM. Hopefully highlights challenges women face by educating and enlightening the public with the aim of changing stereotypes that affects the progress and development of Nigerian.
How do you like that?
It brings to fore the issues of rape, sexual and gender-based violence, harmful cultural and religious practices, amongst others. Every Wednesday from 9:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Silver's Reading 94.7 FM, Abuja.
So, why is this still here? Okay.
Which one is that?
Top of the morning to you this beautiful Wednesday morning. I love the weather. I hope who wouldn't like this weather except for people who are praying that rain won't fall. And you know one thing with humans, the heat will be too much and we'll be saying, the same set of people still complains and say, this rain, and all of that. Okay, so it's Women Voices on Rhythm 94.7 FM. I am Atinuke, Nukay, and of course,
Zahra Abdul Kabir.
Yeah, so we have a full squad. It's a good well, I'm just going to put it, I wouldn't let it slide even though it happened about 3 or 4 days ago. Mexico elected its first female president, Claudia Sheinbaum. Symbolically, this represents a huge leap forward for women in Mexico. While the country has been a regional forerunner in terms of participation of women in politics, its most powerful role has never ever been held by a woman. I hope Nigerians and the Nigerian political space, take a leap from them.
And I would like to take this opportunity to wish the men happy Men's Month, Men's Health Month.
Okay.
So that it doesn't see, this specifically goes to Patrick from Nukay. He always tries to attack us, so it's always about women all the time. So Patrick from Nukay, if you're listening, happy Men's Month to you.
Okay, so we'll move right to the business of the day. On today's show, we'll be talking about mass atrocities. When I first heard that thing, I said mass atrocities. In my mind, I was like, okay, mass atrocities. I know that the mass atrocities has to do with scattering some in my, I went pidgin, like mass atrocity. Is it about area scatter? Until I looked it up, and I noticed that mass atrocity has to do with mass destruction, especially fatal one that leads to massive loss of lives. And when it leads to massive loss of lives like that, we just hear in the news and we hear the numbers and we are so used to it, we just go forward. But it doesn't end with the killing. It has a ripple effect on not only the society but women at large and children, and that in turn has negative impact on the society. So because of that, we have Ajole Enemare. Ajole Enemare is with the Global Rights. Yes, so she will be talking about the impact of mass atrocity on women and children, particularly on women and children. You're very much welcome.
Thank you very
much.
much.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
You love the exercise, I know that. Okay, so let's go straight right into it. I just gave a sketchy definition of mass atrocity, so I'd just like people to, like you to just give that something concise and straight to the point that people understand. Mass atrocity. So. Yes.
All right. So mass atrocities has to do with mass violence that results in the death and abduction of people and destruction of properties across the country. So when we say mass atrocities, like you said, we have pockets of violence happening in different communities across Nigeria. But by the time you add up the numbers, it's in large numbers. So there are atrocious acts that are committed, but we call it mass atrocities because it happens and a lot of people are killed. Though it happens not small pockets per se, but pockets across the country. But when you sum up the numbers, it results in a large number of people being killed, displaced, forced to go into hiding, abducted, and all that, properties and lives destroyed across the country.
Okay, so let's move straight to the impact
of
it on women and children.
All right, so Nigeria for years in short, since our independence, we have been struggling for women's rights. And then talk about recently Nigerian women going all the way to protest at the National Assembly to be given a right to position in the National Assembly. And then when there's violence, issues like that take the back burner. So imagine when we're at the rest of us that are not necessarily affected by, but that are not at war, we're in National Assembly protesting for our rights. Then when there's war or there's a clash in some of these communities, women are not even thought about. So you think about in places like IDP camps, when they start to share resources in IDP camps, they go per household, they go to head of households, and some of these head of households, they have 2 wives, 3 wives, and sometimes they even have concubines. And then you talk about women also that are in these IDP camps that don't have men to represent them. So because of that, these women don't get direct access to resources. Their rights are being trampled upon. We're shouting about education. In some communities in places like Zamfara State and Katsina, because of the mass violence and because of the abduction of school children, some parents have decided that, they are going to come and abduct you in school anyway, so why not just get married? Once these women are married, the chances of them getting, all these kids are married, the chances of them getting abducted, according to the parents or in the parents' mind, reduces. So because of that, instead of sending a girl child to school, you send her to get married, not because you hate her, but because you're thinking that she will be better protected as somebody's wife. You talk about when these abductions happen. Since the 2014 Chibok girls abduction, many more girls have been abducted in school. Yes, boys have been abducted, but many more girls have been abducted in schools. And when some of them, we have seen cases where these girls are abducted and they are trafficked. You see them being handed, like one team does the abduction and they know that they don't have the manpower to keep these girls, or they don't have the resources to keep these girls. Then they trade them, they sell them to another group, and before you know it, some of them are used for sexual gratification in these abduction camps. And then sometimes they are trafficked. And even as the threats to girls is even the threat to women and girls is very severe, that sometimes when they want to attack communities, they say, we'll come and carry your women if you don't give us what we want, right? So yes, it has affected women's rights. It has pushed women's rights far behind what we want, what we have been fighting for. It has reduced women's access to education because of fear. And also, a lot of times women lose the sources of their livelihood. Take for instance their access to farming or access to markets and all that. They lose access to these things, and then sometimes the heads of this household, who would have ordinarily represented them in communities where they have been discriminated against, they lose them. So you lose the leader in your family, you lose access to livelihood and all that. So the impact is very massive. If we start to talk about it, it's a lot.
To share your thoughts on the topic, you can join the conversation by calling or sending a text message or even a WhatsApp message on 081 78000 947. That is 081 78000 947.
Okay, do you have any question for her?
Not yet.
Okay. Now let's deal with the stigma that comes with, there are some times that most of these women are released with the children and all of that. Let's talk about the stigma. How do they deal with the stigma afterwards?
All right. So just like you said, just like I said, one issue is the fact that they get abducted. So you see women are released from these abduction camps and then they come back home. They come back home with children. And then you're released back into the community that you went away from. How do you now start to protect the child that is partially yours despite being subject of abuse? Aside from the stigma of getting pregnant, you have the stigma of who would want to marry a girl that has been with who God knows who, and what God knows what has been done to her. So it's actually people are the chances of, so to them sometimes they feel like their life has been rendered useless. So sometimes in some instances these girls even choose to remain with their abductors,
or even go back.
Yes, because they feel like there are no other options for them out there. There's a mental impact on their psychology. You start to feel less than the human being that you are. You don't feel like you should have access to the rights that you should ordinarily have had if all these things have not happened. You have the fact that these women are also exposed to health risks. You have STIs, STDs that they get. So it's both physical, it's also financial, and also like they come back. Who's willing to employ women like this that have been associated with this kind of violence, and also that have children that they are keeping from people that. So it's manifold. You have the psychological part, you have the health aspects, you have the fact that their education takes a back bench, because when you've been exposed to this kind of trauma, if you're supposed to be sent back to school, you're supposed to, there's a certain level of protection that should be offered you. There's a certain level of a long rope that should be granted to you, because obviously you're still traumatized, right? So, but then even when they're sent back to school, these girls are left to struggle in school and cover up the times that they've lost in these abduction camps.
Touching on the psychological aspects, to add to what she has said, I think such kind of events might end up heightening their paranoia. Like getting back into the community where you were abducted from, you begin to feel unsafe, especially when something happens to you in an area. Anytime you get to pass that area, it brings back that memory.
Definitely.
So in such case, they continuously live in fear after even being released, and then being the feeling of that child reminding her all the time of the event and the entire process of the abduction, everything that went through. That child will always be there to remind her of that. In any case, would you advise, speaking from a personal perspective, would you advise that such children should be withdrawn from these girls, or they have the capacity and capability to actually raise kids mentally?
So I would say it's not a one size fits all, right? Because as human beings, as individuals, we have different responses to different sorts of stress or trauma. So I would believe that they should be so take for instance, first of all, they should be given mental health. They should be given they should be exposed to therapy, and then they should be given access to what they need. So they should have support system. And even when it comes to even keeping these children, it's not just about them, it's also about the community. How does the neighborhood treat this child of the person who they feel like is the child of somebody that had attacked them or had caused them grief, right? So it should be that remedies should be tailored to fit each survivors. So take for instance, if this survivor has the capacity both physically and mentally to offer this child the resources that they need, the love, the care, the attention that they need to grow, and that they are able to survive in these communities, why not? But if it is proven that these people cannot, like this, or maybe for instance, sometimes they don't even want these children, right? So if it is proven that they don't have the capacity to handle these children, then maybe the state should take up that role.
This is quite sensitive.
Yes, it is really very sensitive, especially the part you say at times they don't want the children. It really touched me. So that means that, is it that they don't want it for finances sake, or because of the hate, the transferred aggression that the roots they use in having the child?
And you know how sorry please, and you know how human minds work. They may begin to see that, okay, you have the blood of a criminal,
yes, or a terrorist.
What are the chances that you won't grow up to be like your father?
Yeah, so like I said, it could be for different reasons. Everybody, like I said, they handle situations differently. It could be that they don't have the financial capacity to handle this children. It could be that this child, like you said, is a mark that reminds them of what they have gone through over the years. It could be many reasons. It could be the stigmatization. Maybe they want to go elsewhere and start life afresh, and then they are tied down to this child, right? So different people react differently, and so it will be very unwise of us to think that we know better what these women deserve. It is better to have conversations with them, have dialogues with them, and offer them whatever help they require, because you cannot tell how or whatever they've been through, or how even what they went through impacted them.
Okay, so let me reel out some statistics. I was reading about one yesterday. ICIR said presently over 4,000 people died as a result of mass atrocity. Then I went also to Global Rights, and I saw that the statistics shows that the first quarter of 2024, at least 1,216 people were killed and 1,865 people were abducted. And this happens en masse. Then even the killings, there are lots of numbers that I really do not want to reel out, you know. it doesn't look like it's going to stop. So yes, it's just a reality. I'm not being negative, but I'm just being factual. It doesn't look like it's going to stop because there are even a whole lot of underreported. I know colleagues who tell me that their siblings or their really relatives are part of people who were abducted and killed. It wasn't reported. You understand? So it's going to continue. What is the lasting solution? Or what could be the possible recommendation or remedy for people who are in such areas, who are in violent prone areas and areas where banditry, insurgency is really the order of the day?
So, talking about solutions, if you look at the drivers of this violence across the country, they are driven by different things, ranging from political issues to religious issues to economic issues to even mining. A lot of issues. So, like, we cannot also have a one size fits all solution. But I would say that the first thing we can do as a people, right, is to first of all acknowledge that these things are happening, because most of the times these things happen and they, like you said, they go unreported, or we're refusing to even, or we are desensitized, we don't even pay attention to it. So first of all is to acknowledge that these things are happening, right? Take account of the things that are happening. Secondly is to demand accountability for what we have agreed has happened, demanding accountability from the government. Under the constitution, the security and well-being of the people is a duty of the government. So we should hold our government responsible. And even when it comes to holding our government accountable, like the one that we already have presently, we should demand that they do their duty. They should do their duty to protect. Because you were talking about communities and saying that how do they protect them. So many of these communities have been affected more than one time.
Yes.
Particularly in Kaduna State, this year alone they've recorded up to 10 attacks.
And in their sleep.
Yes, Maradun local government in Zamfara State has recorded a number of attacks. A lot of these communities are communities that have been attacked repeatedly. You hear news when the military comes in, secures the community, hands it over to the police, and they are not able to manage it. It goes back to the same thing, right? Sometimes some of these attacks, there are early warnings for it, right? So yeah, community members should hold their leaders accountable. And even when we're talking about our leaders, it starts from even the picking of the leaders. When it's time to elect, do you elect leaders that are sensitive to your cause? Right? We should start to think about, from the picking of our leaders, are they people that would say, 20 people and one woman? What kind of leader would say and one woman, separate from the number of people that are killed? Or what kind of governor will come out and say only 500 people that died?
Only 2 or only 3.
Yeah, so like
I've heard it before, only 3 people.
So we should pick leaders from the get-go. We should pick leaders that are sensitive to our issues and are willing to work on these issues. And then also we should take note of our environment. When you see something, say something, right? And most of the time people say, we said something, we spoke to the police and nothing was done. When you see something and you said something and you feel like nothing is being done, escalate it.
How do I escalate?
So take for instance, if you reported to the police about issues going on in your community and you feel like nothing is being done, reach out to National Human Rights Commission.
In those areas?
No, but like their representatives, you can send emails, you can use social media.
We're talking about hard to reach areas, that's underserved areas, or people that will have to even climb tree to get good network. Yes. Because I'm even looking at myself now. If I see something, I'm seeing myself driving to Human Rights Commission to go and tell them I want to report something.
They may not
or
even have an idea such organization.
Yes, or even call what number, or you understand. So
at community level, one of the things we encourage people to do in global rights is that you should have early warning, early response mechanisms. So, and also these early response mechanisms also deals with having stakeholders in your community that will take charge when things like this happen. So when you see something, you should have like a group of leaders that would have the ears of maybe some government agencies, and reach out to them, and so that they can escalate it from you. It doesn't mean that each one of us must go to the police and go to the National Human Rights Commission to to push these reports. Have groups of people, have stakeholders, critical people that you know that have the ears of the government. You should speak to people like those to escalate it for us. That so first of all, you must have a system, right? The system must entail how you can identify these signs and how to escalate these signs when you have noticed them.
Okay, so you're not calling the numbers just in case.
Oh, okay. You can still be a part of the show by dialing in or sending a text to 08178000947. 08178000947.
Okay, so we've had issues. I've had times where I I I got involved in, following up with people who have been through all of that, and then you get people saying, "Don't worry, I will support, I will do that," and then it raises that person's hope, and then before you know what is happening, it dashes the person's hope again. In fact, I'm going too far. These cheaper girls recently we saw where government and different stakeholders, everybody will come for the clout and say, "Oh, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll even sponsor them through university level," and they are there and there. So now narrowing back to empowerment and probably trade or something, because most of them can't go to the farm any longer. That's actually what is adding to the increase, the hike in food prices now. Exactly. So what kind of empowerment would you advise someone who has zero knowledge of business or does not even have how she's going to cope with money or investment or income?
So we're talking about empowering women in conflict zones.
Yes, exactly.
One thing I've come to realize is that in this fight for peace building or in the fight for women's empowerment,
Yes,
women cannot do it alone. To be honest with you, you must find men who are willing to support. Because sometimes you're talking about empowerment.
Sorry.
Patrick will be very glad to hear her.
Yes, I mean, do you know even why I interjected? Women who probably have, lost their husband in the course. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Probably widowed.
I would say first of all, do what you can.
Okay.
There's always something within your reach that you can do, pending when you get information on better things that you could do. Also, reaching out to civil society organizations. There are organizations, there are NGOs that go about helping people in this. But like I said, most of the times when they come to render help, we always go per household. And when you go per household, you end up at the men, right? At the men's doorstep to get access to the women. Because if you talk about things in the northeast, before the women will even come to speak to you, you must first speak to the men. It's the men that will say, "Okay, what you're about to say is not something that will destroy our community, so you can talk to our women," right? So, but first of all, do what you can do. And like I said, when it's time to choose leaders, women must learn to also choose leaders that represent their cause. If you don't choose leaders that represent your cause, when the time comes, they will not want to do anything for you because they are not even there for your cause in the first place. And also, one thing that we advocate for is women inclusion in peace building, because we say women are marginalized, we say women are the most impacted when this violence occurs or when these incidents occur. We must have women's representation at the discussion table about remedies and solutions to this violence. Women, because one thing, we were just talking about women as victims. Women are also perpetrators of this violence.
I wanted to say so, but I didn't just want to dwell on that.
Yeah, women are also
they're
perpetrators
enablers,
of this violence.
and they keep arms too.
So that Patrick will not get happy.
I didn't want to go close to that. I know.
So we must have women inclusion when it comes to peace talks. When we come to the peace table, when we come to the table for discussing solutions, we must have women. So we must have women in those conversations. When it comes to giving handouts to people that have been affected by violence, women must be involved. I mean, when you go to IDP camps, so people are always thinking about, oh, let's get them food, let's get them clothes. People don't think about women and their menstrual hygiene, right? Because we don't really have women in this. Because if you have women in these decision processes, you would know some things that only women would require, and then you can offer that kind of solution. Kaduna State currently is making progress in involving women in peace building, and I would like to say maybe other states can take a cue, because you cannot discuss about a people without them being present. You cannot discuss peace and then discuss peace with just men. You must have women inclusion in peace building processes.
You can't understand my problems and myself. No, definitely.
That's very true.
Okay. So, any other question before I just?
We are far out of time.
Okay.
So if I ask any question, and there wouldn't be time for the answer.
Okay. All right. Then let me just go to Wale Oguntokun is saying that first, the society should be kind to these abducted children and the children they gave birth to in captivity. They should all be accepted back into the society. They should all be accepted and helped to develop themselves. That is aside the to read this thing is really very it's cumbersome. Okay, so yes, that is aside the psychological therapy that should be considered. That is Wale Oguntoku from Lagos.
And Wale Oguntoku, sorry you couldn't stream with us last week.
Yes. Oh yes, he asked after the show. He asked
so
me.
sorry.
Yes. Sorry about that. Don't worry. Oh yeah, I would forward that thing you forwarded to
Please don't.
Okay, so yes, Princess Daniel for standing by, and of course Austin Esedo for producing. And guess what? Today is Mr. Adewale Olubumi's birthday. We are shouting out to, yes, we call him My Honorable here at Silverbird News 24. We call him My Honorable. Happy birthday, Mr. Wills, Mr. Wale, My Honorable Atinuke. That's aka Atinuke. We wish you all the very best in all your endeavors. Thank you so much, Ajole Enemari. Did I get it?
Yeah, trying.
Please call it.
him.
Ajole Enemari.
Okay, Ajole Enemari.
Yeah.
Oh, you see?
Actually, it sounds very nice.
Yes, Ajole Enemari. And of
Find
course,
them ordering it.
next week, if we can, let's talk about all these debates. Didn't you see this transactional relationship debates going up and down?
Okay.
After, is it Soldier Boy? Abi, what's her name? Seda Boy. Seda Boy.
Something like that.
I find it difficult pronouncing that name. I call her Soldier Boy. You know, it was after her interview with what's this guy's name? Nedu. That transactional relationship debates. We can do that next week. That's if we do not have any other emerging topic or anything. We can just do that and bring the debate.
I've been told my voice sounds differently this morning. I kind of like it.
It's because of the weather now.
Yes,
so stay tuned next week.
Inside.
Next week, someone just told me, talk about this topic. Why are people making relationships transactional these days? And the other person said, okay, why would you be a married man and ask a single girl out and you don't want that to be transactional? You don't want it to be transactional. So let us discuss about that next week. Stay tuned. Same time next week, 9:30 a.m. So we'll discuss and we'll talk about this debate. Thank you so much. Marvelous Phillips will be taking over. So stay tuned and do not touch that dial. Do have a pleasant day ahead.
What a switch.